Hello, everyone that's just joined us online. Thank you for joining us for our webinar, which is titled Understanding, Detecting and Combating Polyphagous Shot Hole Borer. So we're lucky enough to have two DPIRD representatives join us today, Courtney Butterworth and Kai Christensen, to give us the lowdown. Christian. Sorry, Kai. Firstly, I would like to acknowledge the Whadjuk people of the Noongar Nation, the traditional custodians of the land that I'm presenting from today, and extend acknowledgement to all the lands that you're dialing in from across WA, Australia, and around the world. So my name is Bonnie Jupp, and I am the RegenWA Program Manager here at Perth NRM. And so this webinar is being hosted by RegenWA with the support of Perth NRM and funding through Lotterywest. So very grateful for that. And so just before I hand over to Courtney and Kai, just like to highlight that we would like everyone to have their cameras off and muted. I think that was already automatically set up for everyone because there's a fair few people joining. If you do have questions throughout, please pop them in the Q&A box up the top. So there's chat, but there's a separate Q&A icon. Please use that one so that all Q&As fall into that, and we'll have an allocated time at the end to go through as many questions as we can. We'll try and get through everyone's questions. So without further ado, I will hand it over to Courtney and Kai to start the session. Thanks, guys.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. So as Bonnie said, I'm Courtney Butterworth and this is Kai. We both work for the Public Information team on the PSHB response. I personally started on the field, so I also have that hands-on experience. But today we'll be doing a webinar to inform you guys of the Polyphagous Shot Hole Borer, or what we like to call PSHB for short. I would also like to start my presentation with acknowledging the Whadjuk people, who are the traditional custodians of this land. I would also like to pay my respects to the elders, both past, present and emerging, of the Noongar Nation, and extend that respect to other Aboriginal people that may be present today. PSHB can unfortunately affect various significant sites, and we are working closely with the traditional owners to make sure that the land is managed in the correct way. So, what is the Polyphagous Shot Hole Borer? It's a really, really long name for a really, really small beetle. In fact, it's an ambrosia beetle, which is a wood-bearing boring beetle it's an ambrosia beetle that is a wood-bearing boring beetle that carries a fungus within its mouth, or what we like to call the oral microandry. This fungus it carries, it also cultivates, and it eats this fungus and farms this fungus. So the beetle will bore holes into the tree, creating all of these tunnels and cultivating this fungus within it. The galleries and the fungus together is what is unfortunately disrupting that plant vascular system and causing the effects of PSHB. So I'll show that. So here is a demonstration of what it does. So that fungus and the galleries actually disrupt the xylem system in the tree. So this is stopping the transport of water and nutrients all throughout the tree, obviously causing dieback within the tree, but also unfortunately changing that, reducing the structural integrity of the branches. So it's not just the beetle and then galleries, but it's also the fungus causing, unfortunately, dieback within the tree and sometimes tree death. So how do we identify this beetle? Like I was saying before, this beetle is very, very tiny, about the size of a sesame seed. The female and the males are slightly different. So the females is about 2 millimeters in length and dark brown, and you can see on that picture have these wings. I do want to say that they can fly, but they're only small, so they're not going huge distances. They're normally just going around 30 to 40 meters, sometimes from tree to tree. The males are just slightly smaller and a slightly lighter brown colour, and they remain within the tree for their entire lives. And the life cycle, this is a really interesting point about the PSHB. So they actually exist doing a haploid-diploid mating system. So what this basically means is that one single female can fly to the next tree, burrow in, and start a whole new colony by herself. She will actually produce male PSHB without any fertilization. These males will then mate with that one female, producing females. This is therefore a very heavily populated female, but the concerning bit is that only one female is required to start a whole population. This development time is around 22 to 40 days, and this is really dependent on the climate. Here in WA, it's great for us that we have nice weather all around, but unfortunately that means that they are likely to reproduce all year round within the Perth area. And they're producing around 20 to 50 each time, meaning the population is just can explode just from one single female. A really interesting fact with this as well is because they're remaining in the tree to eat and mate, they're hardly ever coming out of that tree, meaning our typical ways of using sex hormones or anything like that to lure the beetle out cannot be used within these. So where did PSHB come from? So we know that PSHB is native to Southeast Asia. However, it's now slowly spread across the world. So we've got cases in Southern California, South Africa, Argentina, Israel, and unfortunately Hawaii. Here in Australia, we know it came in 2021, and we believe the first one was in East Fremantle. So this lovely lady, she noticed something really strange on her box elder maples, which is their favourite tree, and I'll go into that a little bit later on. But she noticed these weird sore sort of noodles, these weird holes, and just symptoms that she'd never recognised. She actually used our My Pest Guide app and reported these. And once our My Pest Guide team saw these, we detected that this may be PSHB, and this started the whole process. So with it being in East Fremantle for the first detection, we do suspect that it might have come from the port. As great as our biosecurity is, unfortunately, there's always going to be little gaps, and something so tiny is likely to come in there. So this really shows as well that citizen science is always so important, because this lovely lady was the reason we knew PSHB was here in Australia. So why is this tiny beetle such a huge problem? Unfortunately, PSHB can have huge amount of effects. So it can have the urban and amateur trees are getting lost within the Perth metro area. I'm sure a lot of people can agree that we want more trees within Perth, especially on these hot days, providing that shade. But unfortunately, PSHB is currently contributing to a loss of that canopy cover within the Perth metro area. It has environmental impacts. Some of the hosts, unfortunately, are native and also exotic, and we're losing that habitat for the wildlife there, whether it be the food for the cockatoos or just the trees itself or the nature. We are also aware it could potentially impact agriculture. This is due to some hosts, such as the avocados, being on that host list. The extent of the impact on these is based on many factors, such as where it is on the host list. So if it's reproductive and non-reproductive, and I'll go onto that soon. But what we know and what DPIRD knows and the literature knows is that early detection and management is the best case to fight this against the agriculture systems. But also, I would like to say that the full impact will not be known for some time. We are a response. We're responding to PSHB, and we're seeing what impacts PSHB can cause as we go throughout this response. So one of those examples I'm going to show you here. So this is a street in the northern suburbs of Perth, and all of these are those box elder maples, which are, like I said, one of their favourite trees. Unfortunately, PSHB got into one of these trees, and we can see what the consequence of that was. We can see that difference straight away of the canopy cover loss within a Perth metro area. So that's it again. Unfortunately, got into one of them box elders, multiplied and amplified, and went into various of them, resulting in the loss of all of those trees on that street. Luckily, the box elders as street trees is not that common within the Perth metro area, and that mono sort of culture contributed to that loss, but it shows what effects PSHB could have. Another great way to show this is something that happened in California. So we can see here that there was a heavy loss of trees within this regional park. Actually, more than 500 trees were removed. And if you can see on that bottom screen, all of them white dots there are the stumps of the trees. I must say that obviously California has different management practices and they have different hosts. So it's not an exact representative, but this is what it can cause. I also in California, there was a case where when this occurred, no management happened afterwards. And this allowed the introduction of invasive species such as castor oil just to take over. So PSHB, very tiny, but can have a huge effect to not only our streets, but our regional parks. PSHB is unfortunately suitable for most areas within Australia, well, on the coastal areas. So I want you to look at this, and the colour orange signifies that the place is highly suitable for PSHB based on the climate alone. So not including the host for now, but this is the climate alone. And you can see, unfortunately, in WA, it goes all the way down the southwest and all the way up. But we can also see there that them eastern states like Queensland and New South Wales and Victoria, they would also be quite in trouble if PSHB came along to them. So this is why it's really important, the work we do here in Perth metro area, to ensure that the spread of PSHB doesn't go to them areas. I'm sure everyone right now is thinking of a place where it could really affect and could have such consequences and really bad deals. So the other aspect of that is the hosts. So the reason this pest is such a problem is because it gets into so many different types of hosts. So globally, there's a list of over 500 species. And in WA, I believe it's around 208 species it's now being seen in. And this includes a lot of our beloved Australian natives. This on the right here is our new host list. So obviously trying to do a list of 200 plus plants is quite hard. So what we've done is we've put them into certain groups. I want you to look at the main two groups. So the reproductive host and the non-reproductive host. So the reproductive host is where the fungus and the beetle can really establish within that tree and normally causes quite severe consequences. The non-reproductive host, however, is normally where they can't establish those galleries or complete their life cycle, or that fungus cannot establish. So they may attack those trees, but it may not have the same consequences as the reproductive. And then within the reproductive, we've actually then done it further. So we've got those extremes, those very highs, and all the way to moderates. So this is susceptibility levels of all of the hosts that DPIRD has created. This, I must say, once you can see it on our website, and I'll show you a little QR code to go onto it. It is a live document. So new data constantly can move these in different places, meaning that we have constantly updated host list. So I just wanted to show you these ones mainly. So these are the 3 that are the extreme susceptibility. It's your box elder maples, your Robinias, and your coral trees, or you may know them as your flame trees. These 3 are think of them as the PSHB's favourite trees. Unfortunately, these are quite common within the Perth metro area, while the Robinias and the corals, and we've been seeing most of the infestations within these 3 trees. So these are the ones that we definitely, from a PSHB stance, would not recommend planting. Other common hosts, however, they're not just in those big trees. I wanted to show different ones. So here we've got a Morton Bay fig, for example, huge fig, which is one of its favourite trees, and your London plane trees. But then we also have a sea hibiscus that is normally used maybe as someone's hedge. We've also got in that list a mirror bush that might be in someone's back garden. We've even got castor oil, which is an invasive species. And then we've got some of our Australian natives, like the river shea oak. It's really important to maybe go and look at that list just because of the extent of the list. But I just wanted to show this in terms of all the different types of hosts PSHB is in. And that little QR at the bottom should take you to the website where you can find that host list, or you can simply search PSHB. So now we've talked about the host and what it is, I really want to hone in on what to look out for. The beetle being so tiny, and living most of its life within that tree means it's very, very hard to detect. But it leaves a little bit of clues and signs that it may be in there. One of the main ones is these shot holes. These shot holes are 1 millimeter in diameter, and they're normally perfect round circles. You can see them, and hence the name, little shot holes. I'll show you on this next one. So that 1 little millimeter is consistent, and we use this a lot to try and diagnose if we should go any further when we're investigating. So here on the left, for example, and on the top, we can instantly see that these holes are bigger than 1 millimeter. This allows us to realize that this is not PSHB, and it may be a native borer that has less of a consequence. But here on the right, we can see using that ruler that these are 1 millimeter big, and it's time for us maybe to investigate further. So we look for other symptoms of the beetle as well. One other symptom is these galleries. PSHB produces these black galleries throughout. You can normally see these on pruned areas of the tree. You may see them if a branch has fallen, or even if you've gone to investigate a little bit further with those holes and you've gone into it, seen that the holes carry on and you see little black galleries. This is a sign of PSHB. So this black area here on the galleries is actually the fungus. You can see maybe a little bit of white there, but that's just the fungus establishing itself. But mainly that black area is where the fungus is, and it goes all throughout the trees in those tunnels that the PSHB did. So the shot holes and then further investigation and seeing the galleries are signs of PSHB may be there. Dieback. So unfortunately, we all probably know that dieback can be caused by many different things. However, PSHB also causes dieback. When I was in the field, this was a great tool to use in terms of maybe we should go have a closer look at that tree. So once we saw something with dieback, we then go for an even closer look, investigating it further. Maybe we then would see shot holes or we would see galleries. So I know this can be from a wide spread of things, but it's a really good sign to just say, let's maybe go and check it out further. Frass. Frass is another sign of PSHB. So as I was saying before, PSHB is a wood boring beetle. However, it doesn't eat that wood. So it pushes that wood out behind it. And what you can see is these little things. We like to call them saw needles. And they're normally a sign of great infestation or early infestation. However, I must say, you cannot rely on these. Unfortunately, with the weather, the wind, animals, anything like that can quickly scar it off and they could be gone. But if you do see this, it's really important to go and take a further look at a better investigation. There's other signs like staining and leaf zones. This is normally the tree's natural defense to stuff. So it doesn't automatically mean that it is PSHB, like the dieback. However, it's really great, especially when you can see on the top left, a really huge London plane tree that's hard to investigate further. If we're seeing these stains at the top, it's a really great way to know to take a closer look, as this is the tree's defense and it's telling us something's not okay. And then we've also got certain hosts. So on the bottom right, we can see something called a sugar volcano. We see this usually on avocados, and that is also the tree's defense, and a great way to say, hey, maybe you should check us out and investigate further to see if PSHB is in here. The same with the gummin. The gummin, once again, is that tree's natural defense system, but can really flag up for us that PSHB might be in here. So if you remember anything from this presentation today, it's to look out for shot holes that are 1 millimeter big. It's to look out for them black galleries that can be throughout. It could be looking for dieback. It can be looking for frass, staining, or gummin. All of these can be signs of PSHB and can get us to investigate that tree a little bit further. So what are we doing? What is DPIRD doing about the PSHB? Well, I would like to start off by saying it's actually a nationally coordinated response plan. As we saw before, it could have terrible consequences for other states, and therefore all of the states are working together to come up with this plan. So I just want to show you quickly what happens normally. So within that 24 hours of detection, the Chief Plant Biosecurity Officer will be notified, who then will notify the Chief Plant Protection Officer, who will then notify the Consultative Committee on Emergency Pest Plants. This is comprised of the Chief Plant Biosecurity Officers from each state and territory. What is this guy's job? These actually determine if it's feasible to be eradicated, and right now it's feasible to be eradicated. So their recommendations then go to a national group who start coming up with the response, and then here we are in the incident response. So the incident response is myself, it's Kai, it's all the field staff, and it's all the people within PSHB. And we give data back to CCEPP, and it goes round in a circle until the incident is closed and until it's eradicated. Right now, I want to hone that a little bit closer. So what do we actually do? If you guys have got a suspected infestation, you ring us up, what happens? So if a field staff comes to your place because you guys have rang up, or maybe they've seen it themselves, they'll actually take a sample of the infested host and potentially the beetle as well. This will then get sent to the labs for morphological and PCR testing to determine if it is PSHB or not. If it's not PSHB, no news is good news. With the resource we have right now, we always say no news is good news. So if you never hear from us again, you're PSHB free. However, if it's positive, this will then be assigned to a case manager who will contact the resident, or maybe the authority if it's a street tree, or anyone who's the landowner. This will then be assessed on a case-by-case basis. There's many determining factors of this, but you will always have that one case manager to ask any questions, to oversee the work. And I want to say that with this, with our response, we will bear the cost of all the removals of all the trees. So don't panic. If you guys can inform us, we can do all the other work. So another thing that DPIRD are doing is the quarantine area. So these quarantine areas are very, very important. Right now, it's divided into two different sections. So we've got Zone A. Zone A is actually those moderate to high infestation areas. And what's important about this is there's three things to remember. You cannot move untreated or unseasoned wood outside of Zone A unless chipped to pieces that are 2.5 centimetres. So anything bigger than 2.5 centimetres, we do not want to be moved out of zone A. If it's plant material, then we say 2 centimetres, and we also don't want that outside of zone A, but you're allowed to move it within the zone A section. And then we want to say also that any machinery used needs to be cleaned. This is normally the same sanitation as what would normally be used, but it definitely needs to be cleaned in zone A before moving from zone B. So zone A cannot move out, but you can move around into zone A. Zone B. So we've extended this, and now it includes all 30 LGAs within the Perth metro area. So zone B is a little bit different. In zone B, you cannot move anything out of zone B out of the quarantine area, but you can move it into zone A due to that low risk. So this, once again, is those unseasoned or untreated wood that's bigger than 2.5 centimetres. It's plant material that's bigger than 2 centimetres, and it's that machinery, making sure it's cleaned within zone B before moving out. So to simplify this, in zone A, you can move it around, but you cannot move it into zone B. In zone B, you can move it into zone A, but not outside of that quarantine area. And this is really, really, really important, and more science and more information will be coming out of this. I must say, however, there's always going to be exemptions. So one of the big exemptions is nursery stock. And we currently have a training course online and sometimes even in person that for the staff to inspect those stock. And I must say, we've never found a positive case within nursery stock, which is really good. We've also got approved waste sites. So we don't want your green material moving out of that zone. But if it's necessary, then there's certain sites that are available, and they require you to cover it properly, take it to there. And I've seen these sites myself. There is always field staff there doing trapping and ensuring the compliance is occurring. And then also, if you are moving from zone A to zone B, and you've got a lovely potted fig that you would love to move with you, you are able to do that as long as you contact us. So if you contact us and let us know, someone from DPIRD will come down, inspect that, and give you a permit so you can move it. So we're willing to do all the work if you guys just inform us as well. And I just want to show why these two zones are here. So these are actually the most up-to-date infested premises. So every one of those yellow dots there represents an infested premises. We can see here that in zone A, it's so heavily infested there, and it also follows that waterway. So that's one of the patterns we can really recognize. We can see in zone A that there's a high infestation level. In zone B, we've got little infestation to none. And this is where them zones were created through information like this. But I also want to say, as I said before, it's really interesting how the PSHB has followed that waterway. And being on the field staff myself and being in the waterway team, I know that we, as DPIRD, we go to those waterways, different ones across the Perth metro area, checking for PSHB all throughout. So I pretty much said what we kind of do, but this is a little bit more of an explanation. So when I was a field staff, we was doing street surveillance, we were doing park surveillance, we might have even knocked on your door, or we might have even done a booking if you guys have rang up. We've also got traps all around the Perth metro area that's coordinated properly, but then you also have people like me and Kai, who are the public information team, and we've done webinars like this. You guys listening, thank you so much. You're playing your part within this. But also we've got signage around, and we've got media campaigns, and you might have even seen our animation that's on TV or social media around as well. So this is kind of the active stuff that we are doing now. And I just mentioned about trapping. So I just wanted to show you what a trap looks like, and maybe you've even seen one. So that sticky trap there is normally something you can just buy off at Bunnings, that green bit and that yellow bit. However, the difference is that thing called the lure. This lure actually mimics a box out of maple. So we're using it as to attract the PSHB and to surveillance the area to see if it's in this area. I must say the PSHB are not too stupid. If we put this right close to a tree, it will go for the tree instead. But we've coordinated these in places regarding all of that, and they're a really, really important surveillance tool that we use. And if, for example, if one of those was to get positive, we send a lot of resources there to explore that area as well. So these are a really great tool. We've also got trap logs. So them logs are actually logs of box elder maples. They're kept in a bucket, which water to keep them fresh. And we've actually found this to be successful. It's first trialled in Australia. And I believe that one's in Hyde Park. And the PSHB are attracted to that, and it saves them going into the trees instead. So we take those away and dispose of them properly. So how do we dispose of them properly? The treatment method. So unfortunately, currently, the only effective way to deal with PSHB is pruning or removal. And once we do the pruning or removal of a tree, we need to ensure that it's chipped to 2.5 centimeters. We know this from the research given from South Africa and California. They have been amazing at providing us with a lot of research that we've used. And this 2.5 centimeter diameter gives us that 99.9% kill rate. You can see there that we have staff from DPIRD on site to make sure that these chippings are 2.5 centimeters and they are done correctly before they are moved. And I also want to say that this treatment is assessed on a case-by-case basis. There's so many factors within this in terms of the value of the tree, the risk of the tree. We might have a huge mountain bay where the branches are falling and it becomes a public thing, but there's so much difference. And we also even have some very complicated cases within the trees. But like I said before, we have that case manager who will deal with you directly. So you've always got a point of contact and are always informed with what will happen. People always talk about chemical treatment. Unfortunately, as much as we're doing trials right now and we're hoping that something positive comes, there's a lot of complications within chemical treatment with PSHB, making it a very complex pest. So one of those things is that with that tree vascular system, so what I was saying before, basically it's like veins that transports that water and nutrients. With that getting damaged, it also means that when we're injecting one of the trees with an insecticide or fungicide, it cannot transport that chemical around the tree, meaning that there's no way to get it from the tree at all. We then would try bark sprays. However, because the PSHB remains in the tree the entire time, it means that it cannot penetrate into the tree and get to the bug. I must say, we have got emergency permits and chemical trials are being run. We've got some positive effects of, for example, if pruning occurs and then we was to put the bark spray on to prevent reinfestation, that has been something that has been positive and we're looking into further. However, I must always say it's a real challenge to find an effective product and a delivery method that is safe. Not only safe for us, but safe for the rest of the environment. I'm sure a lot of people can agree about what effects them sort of chemicals can have in the environment. We've got some, for example, if they're washed into the river systems and the waterways, and we saw that, you know, PSHB follows those waterways, it can have real detrimental effects to aquatic animals as well. So we're trying with this, but we have to factor in so many different things to ensure it's safe. And I'll just show you, this is not all of them, but this is a list of some of the chemicals that we have been trying. And you can see it's a really wide range, and it's not just us. Like I said, we've got some of this information from California, from South Africa, from around the world. We're really lucky to have a relationship with the California and South Africa scientists that are helping us progress as much as possible. So I just wanted to show what we are doing. So the PSHB response is the largest biosecurity response WA has ever done. So within this, I want to show you some of those numbers. What does that actually mean? And you can see here that the trees inspected, 2.6 million, to nearly 2.5 million, trees have been inspected. We've got 119,000 unique premises that have also been inspected. And I want to show you there right now, we currently have 1,467 premises infected premises. And unfortunately, 4,315 trees removed and 1,029 trees pruned. So I would really like to say this is huge numbers of trees inspected, but within the Perth metro area, we haven't got to every single tree. And this is why webinars like today are so, so important. Like I said before, just remembering that shot hole, or just remembering the galleries, if that's all you remember from this big ramble that I've been doing, is amazing, because we really would love for you guys to look at every tree you can, or your own trees, really looking out for this and helping us increase those numbers even more. So I'll just show you, and then you see the little video of the beetle just roaming around. If you was to see that on a normal day, you probably would not think much about it. This is why it's very important to have that closer look and an inspection, and then to contact us. So contacting us can be in different ways. So we have that My Pest Guide report, which I will show you more. You can also ring us, you can email us. We're more than willing to do the work if you guys help us identify certain trees or identify certain areas. This might even be that you've got a box elder maple, which I must say is its #1 favorite tree. Even telling us where these are located are great. We can always keep an eye on them then. They're a great way to see if they're in that area, and we can really use that information. But also just by keeping up to date. So online, we have the WA host list, we have the quarantine area requirements, we have all of this online that's available. So this here is that My Pest Guide app, which is great. That woman who first detected it in Fremantle, this is what she is. You can add pictures. And I must say, if we can ask for anything even more, is that just to put something next to their hole, just so we can gauge the size of it. So it might be a ballpoint pen, it might be a little ruler, anything like that is really, really helpful when you're doing that. But what I would like to say is that PSHB is a huge problem, but it requires all of us. It requires all of us and citizen science to help us try to eradicate and stop the spread of PSHB. If anyone would like any updates, we have a great external newsletter that regularly comes out, and that's a QR code where you can just simply sign up. But thank you guys so much for listening, and even listening when I'm tripping over my words, because this is really, really important. Citizen science plays a huge role, and we really would love your support and help to try and stop the spread of PSHB. So thank you.
Thanks so much, Courtney. Yeah, just want to echo what you've said there, in that citizen science is so important. And I think, you know, everyone that's joined online and listened can have an impact in spreading awareness as well by having conversations with friends and family and neighbours. You know, this webinar recording will be sent out to all of you by email and added to the Perth NRM and RegenWA website. And I believe it would be linked to the information on DPIRD's website as well. So it can be found online. So, you know, you can even share it on your socials and, yeah, just get the message out. Because I think this has been really practical in understanding the life cycle and how the shot hole borer actually, how it, you know, lives its life and the impact it can have. The breadth of the impact, but then, you know, what to look out for, and just clarity on the zones, and if you're wanting to move potted plants, and just understanding all of those things to to know if you're, you know, considering doing any of that, and that the DPIRD staff like Courtney and Kai are so helpful and obviously, you know, there to answer any questions and inquiries that you have. So we can all work together to try and stop the spread of the Polyphagous Shot Hole Borer and its impact, because it's a nasty one. Yeah.
No.
Sorry, did you have something else to add, Courtney?
No, I know that Kai is working hard, typing away, trying to answer any questions. I was wondering if you had any questions, Bonnie, or any common questions that I might be able to answer now. And also, if we don't have I want to say to everyone, if we don't have time within this session to answer all the questions, we will be trying to get back to you either on the Teams, or you can directly contact one of us through one of those emails that I was showing you, or through the external newsletter.
Yep, thank you. I might read out some of the ones in the, so for those that have joined late and do want to quickly add some more questions in, there's the Q&A icon up the top that's next to the chat box. Be just easier to add all questions in there, so we can kind of have them all recorded. So a couple that have come through there. I'll just trap logs in reserves managed by my city are dried out / no water in the bucket. Assuming this affects their efficacy, does DPIRD need to start scheduling more frequent inspections of trap logs and ensuring the buckets remain full?
So with these trap logs, we've actually hit kind of a logistical problem on the trap logs, in terms of not to do with the water, but with some other stuff. So we've actually retreated some of these trap logs, and we actually plan to do this fresh and new, and it'll be going out to a wider bit. There's just some little stuff that we need to sort out on Kings. I don't know where that one is exactly that you're referring to, so I would have to know that, but I'm guessing that that may be either an old one, or it's one that's going to be managed soon, because I know that's definitely within the talks of DPIRD. But if you could just send me where that is, that would be amazing, and I can pass that information on.
Yeah. Cool. Oh, Connor's got another question here. What is being done to enforce quarantine and hygiene practices of tree maintenance contractors? And then, yeah, there's a comment, the industry is broadly unregulated and the spread, if likely, being exacerbated by this work. Does the Biosecurity and Ag Management Act allow DPIRD to conduct randomised inspections on companies? Is this happening?
So we first have approached this by training. I know that so many arborists are in the conversation or have been trained directly. Kai is actually our industry liaison, and he has been talking a lot with the arborists as well. A lot of people that, as a government, we contract a lot of arborists as well. They're always informed. So education is the number one way that we go. Within the quarantine area, we can implement fines. However, I don't think any has been implemented if this is to be done. I feel like there's always maybe one or two people that may not listen, but we are trying our hardest to get this message across, and we're finding such positive responses from these arborists. They want to know more. They want to do the right thing. So as much as it's probably easy to presume that a lot of people don't care and don't want to, I think because it actually affects their industry so much, we're finding such a positive influence, and just that we're finding that they really want to collaborate. In terms of exact arborists, I would not know. Our BAM people and our higher up people would definitely know that, but I know from our side, especially the responses that we're getting from the arborists, how much they're reaching for education. It seems like everyone's doing the right thing. We also have BAM officers, we have people on the green, we have waste sites that are trained as well. So for them to be accepting it, they're trained in knowing what to look for as well. And then, yeah, we have a collection of networks that we're hopefully making sure that those arborists or anyone moving that sort of stuff is complying with the QA zone. And we're also really just trying to do so much work on here so we can make it easier for everyday life to comply with those quarantine areas.
Yeah, no, that's good. Another question from Wendy is, are there any parasites that will attack the borer?
So we've kind of looked into biological sort of thing, but unfortunately, parasites, do you know?
We don't know of any currently. There's a very cheeky little photograph in one of the articles that shows a hole, or what looks like a hole that's been burrowed into the back of one of the PSHBs or PSHB beetle, which suggests there might be something out there, but no, they didn't get a picture of it. They didn't get a sample of what that taxa was. So yeah, there might be something out there. We just don't have the information currently, no.
And I do want to say that, like, a biological control, that might be a question just whilst we're talking about this, is there is one in Southeast Asia that's natural to there. We have the wasp, a wasp over there that injects its eggs into one of the beetles and then it scurries in. However, we all know that we don't probably, especially Australia, we do not want to start dealing with biological control and being able to manage, like, for example, parasites or biological control management can be very hard.
Yeah, it's very complicated to go down that path, but obviously if this keeps on, persisting, there'd be definitely, different paths to look at, I suppose.
Oh, definitely.
Mm-hmm.
I agree with you there. And part of the WA Agriculture research collaboration funding is to look at this sort of stuff. It's just closed for people to put their research into it, and we've got huge funding to try and learn more and more and learn about those different paths.
Yeah, so on that, actually, I saw it was in the general chat box, but Kai's done a great job at answering that. There was a comment about the WARC research. Did you want to talk to that? Because some people might not have read through the chat, like what they're hoping to do with some solid funding, specifically looking at the shot hole borer.
Yeah, absolutely. So WARC, or the West Australian Agricultural Research Collaboration, released a couple of $1 million in funding late last year for research into safeguarding West Australia's agricultural assets from the impacts of Polyphagous Shot Hole Borer. So there were 3 research priorities that they stated that all research had to be focused on, one or multiple of, and they were innovative treatment methods and improvements to current surveillance techniques, and the host species interactions. Considering that this is a new species complex, this is the first time we've had the opportunity to investigate an incursion of it, and especially it in relation to West Australian native hosts. That's, again, one of the really important bits of information for us to have. So, yeah, they are expressions of interest closed at the end of last year, and I believe they're currently assessing those proposals, those applications, to see what they will go ahead with. So hopefully we'll get some better understanding and some new tools out of that research that can help us going ahead with the response.
Awesome. Thanks, Kai. I've got another question here. What is the typical height above ground of preferred habitat, i.e. the trunk or stems? I noticed that Moreton Bay figs along Mounts Bay Road are pruned to about 0.5 to 1 metre above ground. Is this enough wood removed? Good question.
Unfortunately, there's no real answer to that. It's really dependent on what host, and how the PSHB is in there. We've seen some hosts will go for the branches, some will be in the trunk. There's no specific, unfortunately, it's a response mode. We've just seen completely different stuff with everything. I want to even say that there's an example in Disneyland where they left a stump of infected box elder maple. They didn't grind it down, like that is essential and now part of our treatment plan, but they didn't grind it down and the PSHB continued to live in there. If the Moreton Bays were pruned due to PSHB, a lot of management will be going on. So we don't just prune it and then leave. It will be the area that's infected will be pruned. And then it will be a lot of people keeping their eyes on it, especially for the next 6 months, to just make sure that reinfestation doesn't occur. So unfortunately, there's no specific heights or anything like that it likes. It just seems to be different with all different hosts.
Okay, thanks, Courtney. The next question is, what is DPIRD's definition of effective chemical treatment? City of Perth are having good results with direct application of bifenthrin. I think that's how you say it.
Yeah, bifenthrin, yeah. So for us, an effective chemical treatment is that it will remove, or it's 100% mortality for the beetles in the tree, in the plant, regardless of extent. So unless we're removing all of those beetles and all of their offspring in all parts of the life stages, then we don't count that as an effective treatment. I'm not familiar with the results that the City of Perth are having with bifenthrin. If they're getting promising stuff out of that, great. We're all hoping that we can get as many tools and as many useful and effective tools as we can to treat the response. For us, it needs to be a one-time knockdown, get it all out. And a lot of the chemical treatments, all of the chemical treatments, and safe, yes, of course, safe is a big one. But yeah, all of the chemical treatments investigated so far, not by us necessarily, but globally, they've all needed reapplications, and they're they are ineffective against highly infested plants. So, yeah, hopefully something good can come out of the independent research. The bifenthrin sounds good, but yeah, for us, that's what we mean by effective.
Yep. Cool. Next question, is DPIRD offering assistance to regional local governments in monitoring the high tourist holiday home areas? So City of Busselton includes Dunsbury, Yallingup, and Shire of Augusta, Margaret River.
So I liaise with the LGAs all of the time. We've actually got constant training of all of their staff if they take it. We give them constant updates, and we also give them the material. I have done a webinar for Collie, for example. That's a bit further out. We're here to support the LGAs, and any LGAs that want to contact us, they know we're 100% there, and we're happy to give them as much training, as much information, and as much help as possible. We do reach out to some of the further ones, and we do have some trap systems within that southwest region that you was talking about. But yeah, as LGAs are more than welcome to come to us, and we have contacted a lot of them offering our services and training so they can implement it with all of their staff too.
Yep, no, that sounds good. Thanks, Courtney. Gemma's got a question here, or just wanting clarity around if any fines have been issued for breaching the quarantine rules throughout the duration of the response.
I don't believe any fines have been given out. No, not currently. No fines have been given out. Just a lot of the resources instead have gone into more signage, more information, and more education, definitely.
Yeah, and I guess highlighting the importance of that citizen science and getting people aware. So then people don't have to get fined in the first 100%. Place.
Yeah. Oh, we'd like to go in the more positive route, definitely.
Yeah. Next question. I'm aware that DPIRD may have information stats available reflecting the breakdown on how many certain tree species have been inspected in City of Swan area. How many of each tree species were found positive to Polyphagous Shot Hole Borer, and how many of these infested tree species have been removed? I guess, yeah, there's a little bit more to that question as well, but that sounds like it would be worth reaching out and having a specific conversation and getting that data.
Yeah.
Nelly,
definitely. The LGAs get their own information. However, we cannot make some of it public just due to it being on private properties. with information. But if you was to get in contact with us, I can provide you as much information as we're allowed to, as long as we abide by them sort of privacy rules.
Yeah, and it's a fair question as well, because I guess it's coming from City of Swan wanting to understand how to evaluate their current situation. So yeah, I think that's more about definitely a conversation to have directly with you guys about all that.
Yeah, I've just planned, we're in contact with the City of Swan, and we've got some training for not only the field staff but also the administration staff to understand that as well.
Yeah, no, thanks guys. There's one here. What about the bridge layering to establish the cambium layer disrupted by the infestation and then apply chemical control as a suggested control method?
Yeah. Okay. So fairly technical there. I'd have to speak to subject matter experts to be able to discuss that properly. But at the end of the day, the DPIRD response isn't geared towards research. We're geared towards responding and eradicating the beetle. So that's why the WARC research was set up, so that there is a space and a place and resources available for proper scientific, measured, standardized investigation to take place. If that's a viable technique for treatment, then wonderful. Hopefully someone in one of the WARC proposals has put that forward and will investigate it and can come up with good results or good conclusions, rather, as to how effective that is. But that's, just beyond the scope of the response of us at the moment. We have to go on what's been tested and what's been proved is right, and we can't go on speculative stuff. So unfortunately, that just means removal or pruning at the moment.
Yeah. Thanks, Kai. Yeah, I guess you guys, it's that multi-pronged approach, because you can't do that eradication with, while waiting for the research and the findings. So it's got to happen alongside each other, and just that, knowledge sharing of what's working in those safe controlled test environments before actually rolling it out statewide. Yeah.
But I'll pass the message along, and I'll see what the subject matter experts have to say, and if it's something they haven't considered, it might be a useful tool. Thank you.
Cool. I think, there's one last question in the Q&A. Does DPIRD believe that the beetle can still be completely eradicated from Perth?
So it's not even up to DPIRD to say. Technically, that would go to the larger board. It's a nationally coordinated response. So it has to be run through all the states. All their experts have to meet, and they will make that decision. It's not up for us or DPIRD as an entity to make that call.
Yep. No, definitely. There's no more questions in the Q&A. I'm not sure if I've missed anything that came through in the chat, but if anyone did want to add one last question in, now's your chance, because we might wrap it up so that everyone can, we can close nicely at 1 p.m. I'll wait a couple of minutes to see if something does pop up in the Q&A. But before we do close, I just wanted to really thank Kai and Courtney for informing us about the Polyphagous Shot Hole Borer. I think, this is a really useful way to learn and understand, all the different complexities involved. So I think it's, really great that you guys have taken the time to share all of this with us. And just to highlight again, it is recorded. It will be sent out and available online so that you can refer back to it at any time, share it, and just be aware, or keep it in the back of your mind, and what to look out for. So I can't see any other questions, but a few people showing their appreciation with the hand claps and everything. So no, I really appreciate you both for this webinar. And I guess there's that QR code, there's more resources online, and the team are available for those more specific questions that you guys have. But keep an eye out, be vigilant, and report anything you see. And it was the My Pest Guide app. My Pest Guide app. If you don't have it, download it. It's really handy way to send information straight through to the team.
Thank you so much, Bonnie. Thank you for organising this.
No worries at all. I'll let everyone get back to their day, but yeah, no, thanks again. And if anyone wanted to reach out, I'll also share the appropriate contact details as well in the email.
Perfect. Thank you so much.
Cool.
Have a great day, everyone.
Cheers.
Bye.